all week long. Like, you could ask my wife. I've been like an absolute basket case. I've spent my life savings. We have nothing left. We're paycheck to paycheck because I've worked so hard to get my computer back in proper
Your
working
wife's
order.
like, if I have to ask my wife to let me test it one more time, will you test it with me? Go get on your computer.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Go to a coffee shop.
Go to coffee. Yeah. Can you drive like 10?
Find some shoddy internet. Let's see if it'll still work.
That's right. We have to run it. Every single possible outcome that this might have, I need to know what's going on. So, I mean, fortunately, it wasn't quite that much, but man, yeah, I felt, obviously, I just felt absolutely terrible about last week. So I'm really thankful for you guys coming back on today. So yeah, thank you both. Thank you both so much.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Absolutely. So Chris, how you doing, man?
Good, man. Just settling back into normal life after that last week of Maine vacation there. Came back into Denver, and it's my second favorite weekend of the year. It's UMS, the Underground Music Showcase. So just like Friday through Sunday was just like multiple stages out on South Broadway in Denver, and then some venues. And so it's just like in and out, outdoor music going on all over the place, and just everyone's vibing, everybody's out, just enjoying the weather and everything. It's just good. And then, just settled back into WAG stuff this week, and all my clients are kicking ass for the most part. Everyone's doing well. And sub-coach Tabitha rocked it. So, man, great. Yeah, it's just great.
Awesome. Good.
Taking advantage of that unlimited PTO.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude.
Nice.
Yeah. How about you? Aside from all the stress of preparing for today's podcast.
Oh, well, I haven't done anything else. So that's it. I've slept a little bit, but otherwise it's just been computer nerdery all week. But no, things are good. Things are good. We got that baby girl. She's growing like crazy, and she's sleeping a little bit better through the night, which is awesome. She's starting to smile and laugh, and it's just like, if you have anything that's like bothering you, like i.e. computer problems, as soon as you see your little girl smile, it just like everything goes away, So it's very, very sweet. So so things are good.
Love to hear that. A smile is a soothing thing.
Yeah. So today, gang, on the Working Against Gravity podcast, we have two very special guests. We have AJ Richards, who is an expert in agriculture and food supply, and drawing from knowledge and years of ranching with his family in southern Utah. And then we also have Brooke Ence, who is a partner in crime with AJ in a food initiative called Feed the People, By the People, that they are working together to get off the ground. And today we are going to talk all about that, sustainable farming and food practices. So AJ and Brooke, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to kick things off right away and just get the kind of elevator pitch about this project that you guys have going on, because it's a big deal and it's a very cool thing. So I guess AJ, we'll go ahead and we'll get that from you, and then Brooke, maybe we'll get some from you too, if that's cool.
Oh yeah, I will. I'll add if there's something to add.
Oh no! Hey, come on now. You're.
No.
I want to
Listen,
hear it all.
Okay.
I want to hear it all.
Listen. Why do you think when y'all reached out about doing it, I was like, okay, I've got to have my partner on.
Yeah.
So he's got
awesome.
he's got all of the data and numbers, right there, in front of his brain, ready to spew it out. Me, I'd have to be like, let me just double check it.
In front of his brain.
Yeah, right in the front.
Yeah. Well, in the beginning. No, just kidding. In 2020, I started selling beef direct to consumer from my family's ranch. And I reached out to Brooke in 2020. I said, hey, we're doing this thing. Do you want to be a part of it? You're here in southern Utah. I know you guys have connections with ag. I would love to team up with you and let's do something. So we started working on that from there. And we're trying to go to some like larger like meal prep companies and provide larger orders and things like that for beef. This is specifically for small farm raised beef from family members that we have there in southern Utah. And we were making our way in that space, but then COVID hit and all of the meat packing plants backed up. And when that happened, I called to schedule another order of beef to be cattle to be processed. And they said, well, we can get you in 12 to 18 months. And I was like, what? Like, so imagine you guys are getting a monthly subscription in the mail and then nothing. So business was over. And so we shelved it. Now, during that time, I had this idea. Yeah. And also what was happening during that time is people were talking about all the store shelves being empty in the big cities, especially with meat, and not just meat, but lots of things, meat and toilet paper, so it was a problem that you could see there was an issue with our food supply chain that people weren't really paying attention to. Now, Brooke and I could see that because of the environment that we grew up in. Like, we already knew this was an issue, but it didn't really rear its ugly head until the black swan event that happened with COVID and the supply chain disruption. But at the same time, I'm driving down the road and there's cows standing in the field. So there wasn't an issue with having access to food.
Sure.
It was the supply chain to get it from where it is to where it needs to be. That's what's broken, because it's been centralized by major corporations. Like, we talk about the beef because that's our primary focus to launch. It's what we know. 4 major companies control 85% of our meat supply chain in the United States. But something I've been starting to look into is it's even worse when we talk about fruits and vegetables. Like, there is no fruits and vegetables. Oh yeah. Like, you tell me how many places, unless you go to a farmer's market and see a little stand there, I don't know anybody who's growing market level fruits and vegetables to feed the population. So that's mostly imported goods. And, so we have this major issue in the country. And so I had this idea, well, what if we could create a central meeting location like Airbnb, where when you open up your app or your software, you instantly see a map with everybody around you who's actually raising food. Because how nice would that be to be able to just not worry about the supply chain issue, not worry about trucks moving around, all of these things. Right. So that's where the idea started. And then a couple of years later down the road, I reached out to Brooke and I said, hey, I want to get back into the meat supply game business with you, and I'm working on this software. And I explained it to her and she's like, oh yeah, I'm in. And so she came on board right away. She was, came on board as co-founder and helped raise the capital so that we could get this thing built. And as of 2 weeks ago, our software, it's been 3 years of research and development. And as of 2 weeks ago, the coding is now in process.
Wow.
Very nice. Hell yeah.
Well, congratulations, man. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks. So that's kind of just a real quick, origin story. So it's about decentralizing our food supply chain, or maybe more properly said, creating a parallel economy, right? So you can go to the grocery store. Those markets aren't going to go away. And frankly, they shouldn't. We are in the position we're in because they have taken over. If they were to be gone tomorrow, we shouldn't do that. It would be a very bad deal for everybody, right?
Disastrous.
So this needs to be a transition over time. And so really, here's what happened. The big four, they call them: JBS, Cargill, National Beef, and Tyson Foods. Those are the big four. They control 85% of our meat supply chain in the country.
Well, I just want to mention the fact that 2 of those are owned by China. So
yeah, Tyson is China, JBS is Brazil. So yeah, 2 of the 4 are foreign entities.
Wow.
And JBS is the largest meat. Yep.
Well, can I ask?
And that's only for providing to the U.S., or is that to also other nations?
JBS is global.
Okay.
They've scaled globally, but they're the major producer here in the U.S.
Can I ask about Monsanto? When you said Big 4, I thought for sure you were going to say Monsanto, but I obviously can you? They're big, right? I mean, that's like one of the big ones.
They're crops, though, right? Instead of beef and animal. Yeah.
Understood.
Yeah, so I know beef more, but yes, Monsanto is on the crop side, and they're doing all kinds of highly technical stuff to the seeds so that they grow more and they are pest resistant. But those pest resistant chemicals that they coat that in, they are the half-life of that thing is 100 years or something like that. So they're wiping out all of our important insect species, like bees especially. But Monsanto is that, but it's on the crop side. And Monsanto,
but I apologize about that. Yeah.
Yeah, no worries. But Bayer bought, I mean, we're in this for all food. We're going to start with meat because that's what Brooke and I know, but we're definitely moving towards dairy and eggs and vegetables and produce, fruits, everything. If you grow it, we've got a marketplace for you. We're going to connect you with all the consumers locally so that there's no supply chain. Then also we're driving down any pollution because we're not trucking. The average steak travels 3,000 miles before it lands on your plate.
That's unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
It's so hard.
Yep.
When you put it, when you think about that, like you go to a restaurant, even if you just go to the grocery store to buy like a nice steak, it's hard to believe. It really is. It's just it doesn't seem right, and that's what you're here to fix.
Yeah. And I ask people now when I go to a restaurant, I say, do you know where this came from? And if they don't, I don't order steak. I just don't do it anymore.
Wow.
Other meats like pork, the pork industry is decimated. So, there's not enough pork growers right now. So I'll eat pork at restaurants, but when it comes to beef, there should be no reason I'm eating beef from Brazil or Paraguay or South Africa, And so, but what happened is 1981, Reagan changed the rules that allowed the mergers of large companies. I forgot the technical term. I apologize. So what ends up happening is over time, this company buys this company buys this company.
It's like a conglomerate kind of thing. Or antitrust laws. Yeah.
Yep. And so what ends up happening is now, and their only concern back then was making sure that they didn't control it to where the consumer got robbed, like the price went way up, right? They didn't think about all the other, I believe, unintended consequences. I don't think that decision was made knowing that we were going to lose 40% of our small farms and ranches since 2000. But that's where it's led to. So because those antitrust laws were removed, slowly companies started buying each other out until now we're left with the big four, and they dominate the market. I mean, I was just talking to a guy that opened a meat processing plant in northern Montana, and he opened the plant to compete with the big four and then lost everything very quickly because what will end up happening is they'll go to an auction to buy the cows so they can put through their meat plant so they can sell it into the supply chain. Well, if you start disrupting, the buyers for these big four are in all of the stockyards across the country, and they have very deep pockets. So what they'll do is they'll sit there and they'll raise their bidding number until you pay an arm and a leg and there's no money left. And they'll keep doing that until you're bankrupt or they win it. They'll overpay. They don't care. They've got billions of dollars. And so this guy put everything he had. He owned his own feedlot, put everything he had into it, lost over $10 million because he was trying to make a difference. But that's how it went. Now, and that's also not to mention outside of the big four, that's one problem. Now we have this huge problem with drought that we've had. And so last year, so many people did what they call culling their herd, where they have to sell them off, right? Culling usually means this female cow, a heifer, she's not having any more babies, so we're going to cull her. Can't feed a mouth that's not producing. Or an animal that broke a leg, or it's, whatever. When you remove an animal out of the herd, it's called culling. Well, because of drought, they culled their herds because they couldn't afford to feed them. So now we are at 1960s level inventory with 2023 population. So we as Americans have these problems coming from all different angles on our food supply chain. And so that's what's happening. I think the biggest threat we're going to be facing now is what we call food IP, food intellectual property. Fake meat. If I own the recipe for fake meat and I vilify cows, so you're not allowed to have cows anymore, then your only choice is what? Well, now my only choice is to buy fake meat that has intellectual property rights, that this one company or these few companies, the only source. So I think we're going to see that coming up as well.
Is that in reference to like the plant-based alternatives, the soy-based and all that, or what is now becoming, in research and all that stuff that's coming out, which is like the lab-grown meat, using the cells of animals.
Lab-grown chicken that they already have announced that it's being sold and they do not have to tell the consumer that it's grown in a lab.
Yep. So fake meat and petri dish meat and vegan products because it's a proprietary blend.
Sure.
So, and then like Monsanto, when you brought up Monsanto, there was a farmer here in the U.S. who the neighboring property was growing Monsanto corn. The seeds blew over to his property and grew. They sued him because he didn't have the right to grow that corn, and they won.
Yeah, that's absurd.
Wow.
Completely absurd.
Yep.
Yeah, because there's no way for that farmer to protect themselves against what naturally occurs in nature, which is cross-pollination, all that stuff that happens. Like the wind is gonna wind, and he can't defend himself against that. There's no way to prevent that. But the fact that they could push that agenda and say, well, you're growing our crop, and there's no ability to explain natural reasons for that there is some sort of like nefariousness to that is so absurd and unfair.
Especially when you've got a billion-dollar multi-billion-dollar company suing you. How are you going to fight that?
It's hard to do. So earlier when you were talking about how like the big four came in and then kind of wiped out the small farmer and the ranchers and all that stuff, just for a purpose of educating our audience, well, what is the difference between a rancher and a farmer? Like, what are those differentiations?
Brooke, go for it.
Yeah.
Well, a rancher works with cattle, probably grows hay, if they are supplying their own. So like my dad, we have a hay field and we have cows. So we grow hay. We sell it off. There's a dairy farm that's not very far from us. So we sell it to them. We use it to feed our horses when they're not at pasture. And we also use it if we have to bring the cows down, depending on weather wise. So at what point in the winter when it's getting now starting to get too cold or it's going to snow soon or whatever, if the feed's gone, whatever, we bring them down and then we'll also use the hay to feed them out. But a farmer, vegetables, fruits, right? Crops, no beef.
You might have some small beef operations, but one of the other differences is ranchers have a lot of land because you need a lot of land to raise a large number of cattle. Yeah. So farmers that do raise beef typically won't have as much ground or as many head of cattle, and they might not
their main gig.
Yeah,
got it. So that makes sense. Chris and I had the opportunity to visit Rome Ranch in Austin, Texas, a couple years ago, and that was a fascinating experience. Just because we've never been to any establishment or had the opportunity to talk to anyone about that particular way of I was going to say farming, but that's not what it is, right? See,
right?
I'm learning already. So that their process is the regenerative, like where they move the herds, right? Is this the kind of ranching that you guys both do?
Go ahead, Brooke. We're both pretty passionate about this, so yeah.
Yeah, well, I'll start it and you can finish it off. Yes. So AJ and I are very passionate about regenerative protocol.
Yeah, awesome.
But we are realists. To follow regenerative protocol, it is not easier, especially when you're starting to make the transition. You have to do more work. It requires more of your time, especially until you've got it to where now it's kind of like a fine-tuned machine. I don't remember, AJ, you probably definitely remember, but Will Harris specifically talks about what that transition period looks like lengthwise, time-wise, and it's not a quick transition.
Can you sorry to interrupt, that transition time, or maybe you're getting to it, can you explain that a little bit?
If you're to follow a regenerative protocol, you have to it all depends on how much land you have. You have to have it broken up into different pastures, and you have to move your cows. Either it would be daily or it might be weekly, depending on how much water you have on property, because cows like to stay near the water. You have to, if you want them to move, you have to bring more water in. You got to drill more wells, or you got to do gravity fed, or You got to have water for them. And then you have to move them. So you're just mimicking migration. They are in one area, they eat all that feed, they poop, you move them. Right. And it gets that growth cycle. So by the time you get them back around to that piece of land, it's we've already are back to where now we have feed.
Right. Understood. Cool. Got it.
So depending on how they've been practicing, you have to work with the soil, bring life back into it. And it's not something that's going to happen overnight. As far as how me and AJ feel about, promotion of that, what we want to do with Feed the People and with, From the Farm and all the things is having tons of education, promoting different ways, easy ways to get started, right? Because a lot of producers, if they're not already into that, and usually, I feel pretty safe to say that most, maybe I shouldn't say most, a lot of producers, it's going to be someone in the family that's maybe younger, that's coming up, that's doing research and, finding new ways to get things going. But a ranch in life is not an easy one. But you love it. It's the kind of work that you love. A lot of people could look at what I just said and be like, no way. Even some people that's what they've been doing their whole life, they wouldn't trade it for anything else, but they're always surprised when someone later in life wants to get into it, because they're like, man, you got your work cut out for you. And we are a product of our environment, so we've got these old ranchers, these, good old boys that they know the way of doing things because that's the way you did things. That's the way their dad did things. We could look at those people that are still following like your typical protocol, keeping things pretty condensed, using fertilizers, intense, all these different things that we could say, well, you're the problem. Well, okay, let's be realistic here.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's a problem. We have to be very gentle when working with producers and finding ways that can be easy to implement to start that transition into a regenerative practice, to where they're never going to be in a situation where now they got to take so much time off and they're not going to, potentially won't make money that year, or it's going to really disrupt. They can't afford to lose a dime, So for us, it's continuing education, sharing information, partnering with, the Savory Institute, partnering with people that have more information so we can help all producers as much as possible, make it easy and make it attractive. And, hopefully as time goes on, get more of these small companies making that transition, because we believe strongly, not only is it better for the environment, tenfold, it's better for return in the long run. It's better for them in the long run, feeling really confident about how the whole cycle goes. Being confident that you will be able to produce. You're not going to have, something's not going to grow, but our soils are so depleted that it takes work. Like even what I've been doing with my dad here at our ranch and like getting our pasture going, it's a lot of manure. It's a lot of spreading manure and trying to just get organic material back into the dirt. Sure. And you just kind of do it over and over and over again and keep trying to create more of a environment where there's more life in the soil, in the dirt, and then hopefully soil.
Become soil.
Soil.
And I want to mention that. So that was one of the big eye-opening things with our experience on this Rome Ranch and learning what regenerative farming is and the benefits that it has to alternatives of farming and ranching. And is that the idea is that you're restoring the health of the soil, because monoculture essentially just depletes the soil of all of its nutrients, and you just basically drive it to nothing but dirt that has no nutrients in it, that can't sustain life. And so instead they're kind of looking at this like poly culture version, in that like it's animals and plants working in a cohesive matter, i.e. nature, allowing nature to take place with the hands of humans affecting it to some degree, right? So that there is more biodiversity and, ideally a better quality product at the end of it that doesn't just tear up lands and that
just better for you. Our soils are so depleted that the food that you're eating, it is missing things that are very important to our body for it to function, to be healthy. So you have to supplement so much stuff.
Yes.
You know, and it's, you know, being a vegan or a vegetarian, like you got to supplement, right?
A ton.
So I don't, if I'm eating good, healthy food, I don't want to have to supplement. Like I would rather get it from my food than have to like have a bunch of pills I have to take because you can't get, because now I'm sick and I trying to fix the problem. But then you also know that if you're taking your vitamins or whatever, there's a percentage of that you don't even absorb. It's just like, it's literally like a losing battle. And
it's overkill.
So if we can restore our soil, you know, restore dirt to soil, I mean, that's going to solve a lot of just health problems. I mean, you have people that care about their health that are watching what they eat and eating good things, but even that it's not cutting it.
Yeah.
You know, so with what we're doing, we're really trying to, we are going to tackle a lot of things that are, you know, not successful for the population, for people.
Yeah.
Right.
Multivitamins exist because of shitty soil.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the direct path. Shitty soil, got to have multivitamins. Yeah. Performance supplements, if you're taking performance supplements and not eating nutrient-dense food, it's a waste.
Yeah,
because you're missing all the building blocks, right? So
little to no effect.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's kind of the world we live in, where people want to essentially be like, well, doing the right thing is hard. I don't like to say the right thing, right? Maybe the better thing, right? But that's harder to do. But then you'll see people post like a handful of pills going health. And you're like, is it though? Like, you know, when you could be getting it, 2 birds, 1 stone, right? Eat higher quality nutrients and food quality and sources, and you're kind of getting the best of both worlds, and it negates the need for that, what is not found naturally in your diet. That's all the supplement is. It's supplementing what is not there. Yeah.
Well, then you have that. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, AJ.
I was going to say that brings up a good topic about the cost of food, because people are like, oh, it's so expensive to eat healthy. Oh, really?
Yep.
If you're eating shitty food, but then chasing it with all these supplements and all of these other issues that you're dealing with chronic health wise, what's more expensive? You know, we used to spend 30% of our budget was our food budget, and 8% was our health care. Now it's probably 8% food care and 8% food and 70% health care.
No doubt. Yeah.
But we're short-sighted people as a species. We're short-sighted, right? It's instant gratification. Well,
now more than ever.
Yeah, now more because we want it right now. And so, and anyway, it's the food system is in great danger. Our health is in great danger, but there are solutions, and we're seeing them. That's the exciting part. It's like, it's not doom and gloom.
Yeah.
There's actually, you know, in 2020, I was having some, probably like many people, some pretty heavy mental challenges about where the world was headed, you know?
Yeah,
and I was like,
absolutely.
We're screwed. It's over. It's done. Like,
I
got to drill a hole in the mountain and just start getting ready. And all, you know, that's where I was at.
Your NORAD bunker,
dude, seriously. And so, but then I came across Alan Savory if you look up Alan Savory on YouTube, look up Alan Savory TED Talk. It was pivotal for me, because Alan Savory's TED Talk was so informative about the fact that it isn't over. What we destroyed over 100 years with Mother Nature, if we give her that support with regenerative agriculture and holistic management, it's fixed in 5. And it's like Mother Nature's like, hold my beer and watch this. Hold my bees and watch this, right? She's like,
bees.
But I mean, it's crazy. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, okay. And then all of a sudden, that's where my life shifted, and I'm like, this is it. And then one thing led to another, and really, ayahuasca was the first thing that opened me up to nature as a problem. Like before, wasn't even aware of that. Wasn't on my radar. And then, you know, ayahuasca put me into like the sympathetic state about the state of our environment. When I say that,
to it probably.
Oh yeah, for sure. And then all of these things were happening, and then COVID hit, but then I saw Savory, and then right after that, Kiss the Ground documentary was on my radar, and that's on Netflix, that everybody should see, about regenerative agriculture. I mean, just one thing after another. I'm like, okay, here's the direction we're headed. And then this moment of inspiration, which was the software. And so that's it, you know, and what Brooke and I are building It's a legacy company. There's no people are like, what's your exit strategy? What are you talking about?
Wow.
What exit strategy?
Yeah.
This is like, I'm going to hand this off to my family, and Brooke's probably going to do the same, because if we're the gatekeepers of this tech that connects consumers right to the producers, then we might be able to protect it from becoming, essentially bastardized, like that happened with the food supply chain now with the big four.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of agriculture is a generational thing. It is a passed on wisdom.
Yes.
Of sorts when you think about it. Yeah.
Yep. We're also, COVID also highlighted the need for the food, which also drove tens of thousands of people to homestead. It's one of the fastest growing movements in the United States. And I think we're going to see homesteaders being the people that this new generation of food producers that are going into it without those generational ideas of how it's supposed to be. They're adopting regenerative practices much quicker because there's no barrier to like, well, my dad did it this way.
Right.
It's just like, I don't know what I'm doing. Show me. And then they see regen, like, okay, that looks pretty like a good idea. And they go for it.
And they're starting there from the beginning.
Yep.
So they're not having to do like, they're not having to like transition.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sure.
When you got like a, 150 head of cattle.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can't just all of a sudden be like, all right, now scratch that. We're going to do it this way.
Yeah.
No, it's more like, how do I do this? Like,
Right.
I know that I want to do it this way, because now, I understand something that is fairly, newer information and findings. It's like, how can I do this and still feed my family and stay in business? Just like him talking about the guy who had a processing facility, how easy it is to just wipe them off the map for those big companies.
Yeah.
It is ridiculous.
But the good news is when they, go ahead. Sorry.
No. Continue.
I was just going to say, the good news is when they do finally make that transition, if we can help them walk down that path, and these other people that are out there teaching it, they are going to be way more stable if they can get there, because now they're spending far less money on inputs like diesel fuel, fertilizer. Fertilizer went from $600 a ton to like $1,600 a ton because of the war in Iraq and Ukraine and Russia. And so we have a friend up in northern Utah, Tremonton, the McMurdays. They've been doing regenerative agriculture for about 5 years now, and they've saved hundreds of thousands of dollars in input. And because they've grown more grass because of their practices, they've got more cows on the same amount of land.
Sure.
So they call it protein pounds per acre. It's like if you look at Will Harris at White Oaks Pastures or Joe Salatin, Polyface Farms, they've got these systems set up where, traditionally ranchers will run cows through and then that's it. Well, sheep will eat different things than cows, and chickens will clean up the parasites out of the feces from the cows. So now you've got same acreage, you got beef, lamb, chicken as an example.
Yeah. Wow. That's, I mean, breaking it all down like this, both of you, it makes it so much more digestible. You know what I mean? Like, because it can, I feel like it can be an overwhelming topic for most, and a lot of people will probably just go, well, I don't want to worry about it. I don't even, I just want to go to the store and just get my food and not think twice about it, But you're highlighting so many important aspects of the system and the economics of it all that it's hard to ignore it. And I think that, I know that AJ, I know you've been on other podcasts. The Black Rifle Coffee podcast was absolutely fascinating and an excellent episode. If anyone wants to hear AJ talk more about this, that's a great episode to go listen to.
We'll link it in the show notes.
We'll link it in the show notes. We can do that.
Yeah.
But getting this message out is just awesome. And we're really happy to have you on here, both of you sharing this. My question to you both would be, if someone hears this episode and they're like, you know what, I need to start doing something about this. Like even me, listening to you talk about it, I'm like, I should probably take care of some shit. I should probably figure some stuff out. What would you say to that person? How? Obviously, you're going to provide resources, and we'll link your site and all that stuff in the show notes too. But what would you recommend to just an everyday you know, husband, husband or wife, or just
Mhm.
someone that is kind of on the outside looking in, what would you say?
It's voting with your dollars,
Yeah.
it's, a lot of people aren't going to be able to get their hands dirty. They're not going to be able to get
Of course.
in,
Of course. Yeah.
because of where they live, because of, their job or whatever. But if you care, which we need people to care, we are overwhelmed every day by so much information. At least for me, it's very hard to believe anything that I read or hear,
Yeah.
because we already know that, it's legal in this country, thanks to Obama, to use propaganda against Americans. So it is overwhelming, but if you care, this is logic, be realistic. Okay. People that are listening, be logical.
Mm-hmm.
Fertilizer, overproduce, monocrops, all of this stuff, it is bad. It's not good. It's not good long term, and it's not the way it was ever meant to be done. It was not the way that it was done.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, AJ can speak to you on the history of that and how we got to where we are today. Buy your food from local or regionally, or do a Google search or join our Discord group, because we've already mapped out all producers in every state. So
Oh, that's great.
it's
That's awesome.
it's just now giving you an option of, don't go to the grocery store, at least for those main things. If you don't have to, and that's why we're doing what we're doing. We don't want you to have to. Not just, it's for your health, but it's also for keeping the last, producers that we have that are outside the big four, keeping them in business. We need them to have power so they can fight against, the shitty powers that be.
Right.
Like the gentleman up in northern Montana. Vote with your dollars.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And every time this is what I foresee. And I get it too, because people are freaking busy.
Yeah.
You're a parent, you got kids, you got a job, whatever, we're busy.
Sure.
So when you need to get something, you're like, I should do this, but I'm just going to run to the grocery store. Well, it could very easily turn into the same conversation you have with someone who they don't get started on a project, or they don't get started on their diet, or they don't get started at the gym because I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow. You won't. If you care about it, do it.
Do it.
Yep.
Do something about it. And how you do something about it, you start voting with your dollars. Start putting your money into a place that is going to give back to you something good, not something bad.
Yeah. Love that.
I think it's something that gives back something good to you, but the environment, the world, and others too. So it is kind of like in a broader scheme, if you will, the bigger picture, right? Being connected to nature and earth, AJ, and like you talked about with your experience, is just it's good for all. And it's kind of like, when I think about what benefits us all, to me, that becomes no brainer. That's kind of like one of those why not things. Why would I not choose that over the alternative to the degree that I can,
Right.
And it's hard for obviously people to just do a 180 and flip their lives around and get everything in order, but focus on one thing at a time. Maybe you start with your meat and your beef and you get that rolling. It's more of a forethought than an afterthought, and you could get that rolling, So one thing I was curious about too is, how do you guys go about forming your relationships with these providers, and how do you particularly seek them out? What do you have a criteria? Do you have a some guideline standards that they have to follow to ensure peak quality? Because essentially you're providing the service for me and Josh, right? To not have to go make those relationships ourselves with them. You're providing that and bringing us into the tribe, if you will, right?
Yeah. Well, let me provide a little context around our Discord group. So,
oh yeah, please.
The Discord group is where. So first of all, we're building the software. That's where 99.9% of our energy is going, and people are worried right now.
Yeah.
I was getting messages. I started talking about the software, that it was coming, and people were like, "Well, where can I go today?" And I'm like, "Oh, geez." And they were lots of comments, and things are so kind of up in the air in our world that because Brooke and I are doing this to be of service, what happens if something changes before the software's live? We still need to connect people now. So we built this Discord group. Now, it's not awesome. So Brooke made it sound way more awesome than it really is right now. So here's what I tell people. If you
Discord's an interesting thing to get familiar with, though.
Yes.
Yeah,
Understandably.
But also, Discord is growing organically on its own. It's a meeting place where we brought people together. So I'm not verifying the producers on there yet. When we bring them over to the software, every single producer will we'll verify our producers, and they'll have a little badge that lets people know that we did the work to verify them. If not, if they don't have the badge, you're making your own choices. You know, we don't know. We just allowed them to set up a profile. So that's, people need to do their own due diligence. In the Discord, I tell them that I'll provide you a few numbers. If you're early adopters to this, you got to do some of your own legwork. And that's what Discord is. But what's really awesome, what's happening in Discord is people are starting to serve each other. Hey, I went to this place and it was awesome. I went to this place and it was awesome. You should try this. Perfect. This,
nice.
Look, we are decentralizing the supply chain. Now we have to have rules so Cargill doesn't come in and take over someday. So it's not a true decentralization.
Sure.
But the goal is consumers are doing business straight with the producers who are doing it, and they just needed somebody to form the relationship in the middle. That's our job. We're just there to connect and let commerce happen. If we're even going to let people, review each other, just like in Airbnb. If you bought from a producer, because not all producers are amazing, sucks, but it's just the way it is, right?
Yeah.
You got some assholes out there. So somebody might buy from a producer that did not do a good job. Well, they should be able to tell everybody, this guy sucks.
Yeah.
You shouldn't go to them. Also, the producer should tell other people, you shouldn't sell to these guys because they're a pain in the ass, right?
Yeah.
I've fired customers before, right? And so it needs to have its ability to do that. But like Brooke said, voting with your dollars. But I also want to highlight something. Human beings have basic needs that are not being paid attention to by that human. The first one is food. Human beings need food, shelter, safety. I'm going to lump water in with food, but food, shelter, and safety. If you're forsaking your number one priority, you're going to have a rude awakening. And I'm speaking directly right now because I'm a coach. You guys are coaches. I've been a coach. Sometimes it takes a little slap in the face.
It does, yeah.
Your most important aspect to be alive is to eat sustenance. So if you have a busy life and all of this is going on, you don't need to read into the rabbit hole that Brooke and I go into like we do. Fine. We'll do highlight videos for you to just catch bits and pieces. But you should damn well know where you're feeding your family and where that's coming from. It's just that simple. And like she said, vote with your dollars. You don't have the land, no problem. You don't have the money to go build a software or build a meat processing plant, no problem. If your only contribution is what your family's eating, that's enough. Because when look what happened with Bud Light. Look at what happened with Target. Look what happened to these companies that made certain decisions and they lost massive amounts of money because because of people voting with their dollar.
Mm-hmm.
It's that simple. The same thing is this. It's the same aspect for our food supply chain. If you buy locally and you buy from the small farm and rancher, the market will move that direction.
Bingo.
Yep. It'll influence. It'll push things. It'll become the norm.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's what you want. That was beautiful. Absolutely. It's like sometimes people get, there you go, take your hat off, tip your hat. Sometimes when we get like to this point in the podcast and someone will like say something so profound like that, I mean, it's like, oh, it's not going to get any better than that. We should probably just stop the podcast because it was that good. But so both of you brought up like absolutely fascinating points. And it all started with Brooke, you saying vote with your dollars. And at the bare minimum, that's what we can all do today. You got to go to the grocery store to get some stuff tonight, fine. But look for the local stuff, look for the good stuff. If you have a farmer's market in town, go there, as often as you can. That's how it starts. And I think that everyone listening to this can relate to that and do a little bit better of a job doing that and helping themselves out. You're helping other people, you're helping yourselves. So, I mean, I would like to bring the podcast to a close, but before we do, I want to make sure we get the website out there. how can people get involved with you guys? Yeah, please share all the plugs, all the details, so we can get it out there to people.
AJ?
Yeah, feedthepeople.bythepeople.com is our website right now where you can connect with us. There's a link you can sign up to be connected to our Discord group. We're also Brooke and I have acquired and partnered with a company called Stay Classy Meats. If you are in a place where you can't find, if you can't find a local source yet, this purpose of Stay Classy has two parts. One, when the software's live, if you don't have anything available for you, we can backfill. And that's because Stay Classy does not sell its own meat. We're not a white label. What we're offering is farmers and ranchers in our areas that we source from that are so busy doing the job of ranching, they don't have time to do the direct sales.
Sure.
So we've got ranchers in Wyoming and Montana. They're like, listen, I've got 600,000 acres and 1,500 head of cows, and we're doing regenerative agriculture that's exploding. Like, I don't have time to pick and pack and ship and all this stuff. Please help us. And we're like, yeah, you're still the rancher. So stayclassymeats.com is a place that we can connect you with as well.
Awesome.
Very
great. Well, I mean, thank you both so much for coming on today and sharing all of this knowledge, the true entrepreneurial spirit. You found a spot that needed to be filled, and you're filling it. You found a problem and you're fixing the problem, and I mean, it doesn't get much more entrepreneurial than that. That's fantastic. So, AJ, thank you so much, and Brooke, thank you so much as well. It's been awesome.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
And then maybe a year from now, come back on and see where Feed the People by the People's at.
I was going to say 6 months, but
6 months.
Yeah,
well,
whatever.
6 months a year, whatever. You guys let us know.
Yeah, if you guys are down, that'd be great. That'd be great. So
yeah,
awesome.
cool. That'd be a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Thank you.